Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I've been thinking. You can probably hear it from where you are. Ding, boing. It's the noise of my brain ticking over. These cutting room floor clip stuff. I'm inclined to film everything that moves. I either need to stop doing that or I need to work out a better way of presenting it. And my thought at the moment is nothing more than, obviously if I select a few clips, I need a start and an end. So this is a start. It's nearly dark in here. I hope this camera's doing okay. It's the end of the day, and obviously today I filmed loads of stuff. Now I've managed to separate a couple of the clips out basically about fertiliser, because I keep getting asked. So I've sort of done a more definitive look at how how frequent levels of feed, TDS readings and stuff like that. So that's done. That's a separate video. But it still leaves loads of clips lying around. So my theory is, my average video length is around half an hour. Now, when I watch other people's videos, this is what's triggered this thought. My concentration level might not be good. It might be first thing in the morning, and it often is. I'm still halfway down my first coffee. So my concentration level is not giving the video its good attention, and I often skip things. And I'm sure people do the same with mine. So I think shorter videos gives people a chance to have a break. So, there are some videos that are probably going to be up near the half-hour mark because of the subject matter. But when it's just cutting room floor type clips on a watering day or something, I think more, 3 short ones, 3 10-minute ones is probably better. The downside is I need lots of starts and lots of ends, which is like what I'm doing now. But my thoughts are that I've got an introduction, I've got a banner heading, I've got some music and everything. If I just go straight into a clip, it's not the end of the world, is it? If you don't hear me say, hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by, it's not the end of the world. So I think some of those clips can just be joined together without a start. It does mean they might come to an abrupt end if there's no sort of thanks for dropping by bit, but it just makes my life easier to put them together. I can keep them shorter and not worry about people's attention span. I mean, I've got the same problem, so I'm sure everybody else has. So that's the plan for the future with the cutting room floor clips. There are loads today, and I watered about a third of my plants and all of the mounts, and contrived, but I left my mounts till quite late in the day. The reason being, I do not want to water them again tomorrow. I want to do all the rest of my pots. So they're on a 1.5 day cycle when I choose, instead of a daily cycle. In other words, they get done in the morning, and then the next day they get done after lunch, so that the next day I can miss them out and go back to early morning again. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. It depends on the weather. Look at that thing. Whoa, no, keep it separate. That'll get picked up when I water it tomorrow. Okay, so that's just some thoughts on the way that these clips get put together. I can imagine that not everybody is interested in all of the clips. Some of them are, like I've got a load of clips on my bulbophyllums. Not that I've got a load of them, but, I sort of stopped and looked at them, and had a chat about them. I've picked up on quite a few of my phalaenopsis today that hardly ever get filmed and hardly ever get looked at. So that's not specifically of interest to some people, but it is to others. So by keeping them shorter and perhaps in the title actually mentioning, some of the orchids that are going to be included, like if I'm doing a thing specific on dendrobiums and people aren't interested in dendrobiums, they can just miss that one out. Rather than having to sit through it and think, I'm not interested in this. Where are the phalaenopsis? If you see what I mean. So I'm going to try and make them a bit clearer rather than just a load of random clips. And hopefully it'll help people choose their viewing. I mean, I can't watch everybody's videos, but I make a damn good effort first thing in the morning. Everybody that I come across, normally by those that are subscribed to me, that have orchid videos, I will subscribe to. And there are a lot. Not everybody does a lot of videos. Some have only ever done a couple and then stopped making them. Some do an odd one every fortnight, every 3 weeks. But, you know, I try and watch them all. But some of them are on a subject matter that I'm really not interested in. You know, if you do a video on catasetums and it's got that in the title, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not interested in those types of orchids. I haven't got any. I have no intention of getting any. They don't interest me. But, you know, somebody says, you know, I'm going to film my Dendrobium anosmums, I'm in there like a shot because I'm interested in them. So that's the sort of plan for the way these clips are going to get put together. And by sticking this bit as the start of the next one that's going up, everybody gets to see this one with any luck, and then, you know, can see what I'm up to and why. Okay, well, let's get going with some clips then, before it gets flipping dark. Okay, I need to get this on film. I know there's going to be incredibly few of you that have got this flipping monstrosity. This was the Bulbophyllum phalaenopsis that Archie gave me. A single bulb with one hell of a leaf on it that I thought, oh, cheers, mate. And then when I looked it up, I really went, oh, thank you very much. The stinkiest plant on the planet, or certainly up near it. But I am a trifle worried. I'll tell you why. It's just looking at what the plant's doing. Yeah? Now, when that was a nice little bit of green down the base of this enormous pseudo bulb, I thought, oh great, it's putting up a new growth. That means it will grow some new roots because it hasn't really got any. Now I'm looking again, I'm not so happy. And I need somebody who's got this, that has seen this, to tell me the correct answer is it's a new growth. The incorrect answer is that that is a stupid flower spike, because I really do not want this thing stinking out the place. But what you've got to look is the structure of what's growing here. There's a line round here. Yeah? There's a line here. There's a line down there. These are going to be something when this grows on. Well, what can they be if it's destined to be looking like that, which is a bulb? It's got no bracts or sheaths or anything round the base of it, and it's a single leaf poking out the top. That's it, just the leaf. Again, no bracts, no little sub-leaves down the bottom. It's quite tidy. So what the hell is that? I really hope. It's the only plant I've got in this place that I hope it's not a flower spike. Because if it is, it's going to totally exhaust that bulb for a start, because it's got no roots. Literally, it's got no live roots under there, just dead ones. And it's strapped into the pot to make sure it doesn't move. You can see. Put a stake up through the leaf and then strap the stake to the outside of the pot to make sure that bulb stays absolutely still. But if that's going to be a pseudo bulb, great. But it doesn't look right to me. It's got too many parts to it. Unless it's just the type of plant, you know, maybe at some point this pseudo bulb had bits round the bottom, the dry sort of sheath looking things like you get on Catlia canes and things, and somebody pulled them all off, which means that could be a pseudo bulb. But if you've got this and you've ever seen new growths on yours, do they look like that? And if you've ever got one to flower, you know what I'm on about, the stink. And is that what a flower spike looks like? I really hope not. I don't know what to do with it if it is. It's going to stink the whole place out. It'll stink the house out. It's horrible. It might be interesting, but it's still horrible. Anyway, if you've got an answer to that, it would be appreciated. Okay, this is one of Archie's Bulbophyllums that he gave me, and it's pushed out a lovely new growth with a lovely new leaf, which is also pushing out some roots. And every time I pick that plant up, that new growth wobbles. So I'm going to try and get that to hold the flipping thing still. It's not going to work, I don't think. Nothing for her to get a hold of. Try and get some
What it needs to do is push out a few more roots and get down into the media. That would help, but that's not going to work. It's needs a much longer piece of wire. Let's go and get a longer piece of wire. Then it can get its fork right down into the media and get a grip. Alright, let's see if that one will actually grip. Should do. Yeah, I can feel it biting. Yep, that's got it. Now that should just hold it still. And then I can ease the media, not cover the rhizome, but just ease the media around it, and any roots that come out of the base of that rhizome should now get in there, and hopefully it'll stop wobbling around when I pick it up. I only pick it up to water it, so it's not very often, because it hasn't got that good a root system. It doesn't use the water up very quickly. But also, the Archie orchids haven't long been repotted, and some of them didn't have very good roots. So I got a catch-22 here. I don't want them to stay absolutely dripping wet, but then these plants need moisture. But they're in new Orchiata bark, which you know, takes a bit of getting wet. So let's get that one watered anyway. More routine maintenance. I'll show you why in a minute. I've just put the camera down on the table. I'm not faffing about with the tripod when I'm watering, because something, probably the tripod with the camera on it, will get knocked over, you can guarantee it. But basically I'll show you what I'm up to. I'm just going to put a loop around that pseudo bulb with some raffia. This doesn't need to be there long, I hope. I just want to basically I want to move the bulb. So very loose bit of raffia, and then I'm going to come around this bulb, which is quite firm, and pull this one a little bit back. I'll show you why in a minute. I bet this raffia tears because the plant's a bit wet where I've just watered it. You get raffia wet, or this sort of raffia, it don't last long. About there, will that do it? That'll do. As I say, it's only a temporary thing, I hope. Just knock that off, and then pick the camera up and show you what I'm up to and why. Right, let's get this back up where I can control it. Right, okay, this was one of those with rampantly long pseudobulbs, and I'm new to bulbophyllums. This is a new genus for me, so I've got to learn. But what I have learnt is that any bulb you get near the edge of a pot, you can guarantee that's the flipping one that will put up the new growth, and that's just what it's doing. And now you can see why I've just pulled that bulb back. What I can also see, now I've pulled it back, is new roots. Yay! And I'll get more with that bulb. So the idea was to just get a little bit of clearance down there, and as that bulb grows, the first thing it's probably going to do is grow a rhizome. And if I can train it, I'll bring it round the pot and get it down in there. If I can't, it's going to come up over the top, and it could be that long before it forms a bulb, and it will be then endearingly known as a pain in the proverbial if it does that. I don't know how flexible the rhizomes are when they're young, but if I can get that to just go that way or that way and then peg it to the media like the other one I've just done, then it'll stay in the pot for a bit till it decides to grow another one perhaps. But we'll see how we go. But that just gives that a little bit of clearance to get away. Tucked against the edge of the pot like that, it was going to stay wet for a start because there wouldn't be any air around it. So that's just to give it a little bit of clearance. That's all I was up to. And that one is, what is it? Well, that's the one with the maybe, maybe not name, Crassipes. And the other one that I've just been fiddling with, which I forgot to tell you what it is Delitescens. And that has nice leaves on it. I like that one. As I say, getting down's the easy bit. It's the getting up at my age. Anyway, a little bit of bulbophyllum maintenance. Now, this was a worry. You know, being new to a genus, to suddenly get your latest new growth completely fail like that. I thought, oh hell, you know, do I really not know nothing about these flipping things? But since then, it's pushed out another one here, and it's pushed out quite a nice strong one from the other side of the bulb where the new growth failed. So, and that's got nice new roots pushing out as well. So I'm pleased with that. Trifle worried with the intelligence of bulbophyllums. You know, put out a new growth right next to the pot, why don't you, when you've got all that space? And like this one, put out the new growth directly below a leaf, why don't you? You know, when you could have come out here and got some clearance to actually grow. It'll push its way round the leaf, but anyway, process of elimination. This one didn't have a label last time, and at the start of my watering pots period today, and that will run on in tomorrow, maybe even the next day, anything I see without a tag is going to get one now. Simply because I've got a bit slack lately. So that's by process of elimination, which is look at the plants I've got that have got tags on, go and look at the list and cross off the ones that had tags, and the one that's left is the one that hasn't got the tag. Simples. Okay, so that's that one sorted. Now I know what it is for all eternity. But yeah, I mean, you know, they seem to be growing okay, so I'm not failing with them. But there's an uncertainty when you get a new genus. It's as simple as that. And I haven't had a new genus so different for a long time. So this is a bit of a learning curve. I started with the Elizabeth Ann Buckleberry, like many do. And then you sort of think, actually, I think I might be able to grow them. And you ask around and see how people grow them. And you said, you know, they say, well, what's your temperature range? I said, well, I grow intermediate, gets a bit warm now and again, and gets down on its limits in the winter. Oh yeah, you can grow bulbophyllums, they're fine. And then you go on the internet and you find a lot of them are classed as not only warm growers but hot growers, real steamy jungle merchants. Well, I'm trying to avoid those. Whether I've got any of those in amongst Archie's little set that he sent me, I don't know. But they can only get the warmth I can give them. They either make it or they don't. I'm not changing my temperature range for one or two plants. That's not going to happen. But if I get any more, which I'm not saying no to, I quite like the look of them, especially ones like this that grow really short rhizomes, as opposed to ones like this that try and escape. But yeah, if I can stick to the relatively smaller ones that don't have stinky blooms that are horrible, there are some that are virtually no fragrance at all, and in amongst them there are some with what they call relatively pleasant fragrance. In other words, you don't turn round and honk on the floor because it's so revolting. So there are some I can keep my eye out for. So, you know, I do a bit of research now and again, looking out for ones. And quite honestly, it's driven by ones that come up on eBay. As soon as I see one on eBay that I haven't heard of before, I go and have a look. You know, and if it says warm to hot growing, well, no. And if it says intermediate to warm, I think, I wonder what the blooms look like. Go and have a look at the blooms and think, nope, don't like that. Cross it off the list. And if I look at the bloom and think, actually, I could live with that, that's quite nice. See if we can find out if it's fragrant. And then it comes up with the smells of rotting meat, smells of dead things. So you think, yeah, I don't really want that in my grow room. But I'm finding a couple now and again, jotting down their names. So, you know, I haven't finished with bulbophyllums. But I'm being very selective with these. Non-stinky and preferably relatively small and not rampant blinking rhizomes. And there's enough out there for me to find a couple now and again. It has been so close to going under the hedge on numerous occasions. When I first got it, it was a continuous rhizome, one bulb after the other in a nice neat line. I thought, well, that looks like something that could go on a mount. So I put it on a mount. It did nothing for well over a year. Nothing. Nothing. Didn't drop a leaf, didn't grow new growth, did nothing. So I thought, well, you're taking up space. I want that piece of bark for something else because it was more suitable to something else. And you're borderline getting thrown out anyway. So I took it off and cut it in half so that it would fit in a pot. And I thought, your last chance, this is it. And then it pushed out a new growth. And I was fooled because it pushed out a new growth and it all went brown. So I thought, right, this is it, under the hedge for you, mate. But I put it back on the shelf. And now, however long later since I last watered it, that brown horrible thing that looked like it has failed is pushing on green. So it is going to grow. I don't think that'll fail now. It's got a bit too big. And hopefully as that gets a bit bigger, you know, it'll form a pseudobulb and it'll form roots at some point, either when it's complete or as it goes along, or very soon as a new growth. I don't know, because that flipping thing's never done anything since I had it, so I have no knowledge of how that's going to grow. But it's growing. That's Coelogene flaccida. Come on. You know, this is your last chance, really. Seriously. Not mucking about now. I think out of my bulbophyllums, plant-wise, I don't know about blooms yet, this is the one I like the best. It's a good size, strong looking plant with very short rhizomes. Nice new growth out this end. And like I said about, you know, as far as intelligence is concerned, you know, let's push a new growth out right next to the edge of the pot, why don't you? So that's another one doing it, but that's got room. That'll be fine. And that one's on the edge of the pot as well. But again, it'll be fine. You know, looking at the size of the pseudobulbs, there's room in there for that one. But yeah, as bulbophyllums go, I like the plant. So yeah, that's Wilbur Chang. I think it actually has a nice bloom on as well, if I ever get to see one. But with 2 new growths and a support plant that big, there's no reason why it shouldn't spike off of at least one of those growths. We'll see how we go. Because at the moment, my Elizabeth Ann Buckleberry was the only bulbophyllum bloom I've ever had, and I bought that in, you know, it had 3 spikes on it, 1 damaged and 2 reasonable, 1 just opening. But those are the only bulbophyllum blooms I've ever had in here, and they were bought in. I've never produced one myself yet. So, you know, hopefully I've got some plants coming on that might actually produce blooms. That'll be nice.